Prior to starting the channel, I was always a fibre wad cartridge shooter, and since spending a little bit more time on the clay range, listening to a few of the top shooters, I have started using a little bit of plastic wad in competition situations, but I've never really paid much attention to the difference between the two. So today, I'm going to run a couple of different tests. We're going to shoot some pattern sheets, we're going to shoot some stationary clays, and then we're going to go out and shoot some targets and see if there really is any difference between the two. Now, before you all jump on your keyboards about me shooting a pattern plate, what I'm looking for here is overall external diameter and smoothness of pattern. It's just got to be, it's one of those tests that you've got to do. So what we're looking for is if there is an increase of external diameter between the plastic and fibre. Now, to keep things as fair as possible, I'm going to be using exactly the same cartridge, exactly the same shot. So I've got Sporting 100s in 7.5s plastic and fibre. I'm going to put them through with the Longthorn, bottom barrel each time, half choke, just to try and keep everything as close as possible to replicate each shot as we can. Okay, so let's start with the plastic at 30 yards first. As you can see, really, really nice and even. Obviously, I wasn't in the middle of the pattern sheet, as you would expect, but a really good, evenly spread pattern. So moving on to the fibre, I did pull the pattern a little bit low, but it's very, very similar. Very, very dense through the middle. However, I have noticed there are a few more flyers up the top of the board here. So definitely, even at 30 yards, that fibre wad, with it just purely being behind the shot and not cupping it like the plastic wad, you are going to get a few little bit more flyers. So on to the 40s. So over at 40 yards, genuinely between the two, I honestly don't think there's a huge amount of difference. The only thing I would say is the plastic seems to be more overall evenly spread, whereas moving on to the fibre, you've got quite a lot of density down here and then a few little gaps around the edge, but it purely could just be where I am putting the gun. Now, doing these sorts of tests is really difficult because at the end of the day, you're throwing 200 or 300 very, very small balls down a tube at 13 or 1400 feet per second. You're never going to get complete unification of a pattern. There is a lot of, luck's not the right word, but trying to explain what I mean is quite difficult, that you are just throwing a load of extremely small balls down a tube at a very, very high velocity. So you're never going to get the same pattern twice. You're never going to repeat it, but striving for consistency, consistent velocities, and I would say, you know, smoothness of pattern is obviously what we are all aiming for. But to be honest, between those two at 40 yards, I genuinely don't think there's much difference. Right, on to the second test. So I'm going to go and stand some clays up by the pattern sheet, and I'm going to shoot them with both the plastic and fibre. I am going to stick the camera up there so we can slow-mo it down. Now, to give you the answer for this, obviously, I'm going to have to watch it back. So until I get the chance to do that, we're not going to get to talk about it. Okay, so very, very quickly done a quick edit and just slowed it right down. So I'm going to start with the fibre wad first. Obviously, I did it at 30 yards to replicate what we saw on the pattern sheet. So let's have a look at the fibre wad one first. Okay, so to me, that is a pretty damn decent break at 30 yards, but we'll go straight to the plastic so we've got a really nice comparison straight away. Now to me, definitely, I mean, I'm going to watch that again. That definitely looks like a much better break. Like, it's carrying more kinetic energy. It just seemed to really, really destroy that clay. I mean, if we put them side by side and have a look at them both at the same time, you'll really, really be able to see the difference of those brakes. That to me is almost a little bit night and day on the brakes. I mean, I'd probably put the pattern a little bit lower into the ground on the Fibre shot, but not by a massive, massive amount. It's still very, very central pattern. So I think the best thing to do now, I'm going to go onto the sport track behind us here. I'm going to shoot the same target. I'm going to try and replicate the shot each time. Now, there is obviously an element of human error here. I am not by any means an A-class shooter, so I'm going to try my very best to replicate each shot for you to give you the best results that we can. Okay, so I've picked a target on here. We've got a nice little left to right sort of semi-looper off the back, trap one out here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to try and repeat the target each time. So I'm going to start with the plastic wads first. Okay, so both those brakes I thought were pretty consistent. It was nicely on the front end, good clean brakes. Now, the feedback from that with the half choke is really, really nice. So let's get onto the Fibres and see if there's any difference. Now, personally, I'm not going to lie, but I think both of those were actually better brakes. Now, I appreciate that that target is not at the greatest distance, but I do genuinely think that those Fibres potentially were a little bit better. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away, I'm going to watch the shot cam footage, and then we'll try and just look into it with a little bit more detail. Now, looking back at the shot cam footage, I genuinely think that the brakes with the Fibres were better than the plastics. Now, this could be down to shot placement. Like I said, I'm not an A-class shooter, so doing, you know, the same shot placement every time, it could be down to that. Now, all I would say is there's got to be a reason that all of the top shooters all want to shoot plastic wad. And from what I know, it's down to the more consistency with your pressures and obviously more consistency with your pattern. And that's what they need. They need to be consistent with every shot so that they can replicate it. It's got to be as much up here as it is down here. My only argument is for people like me, if you're just a Sunday shooter or, you know, you practice a lot, plastic isn't wonderful for the environment. We all know that. And obviously with the impending steel coming in, we've again all got to move away from plastic wads onto a bio wad. So if you are just a Sunday shooter, shoot Fibres. Genuinely, I here can't see the difference. Now, yes, at greater distances, at your 50, 60 yards, your plastic wad is more than likely going to outperform your Fibre. But for just a bit of practice, I genuinely cannot see anything wrong with Fibre wad for the average shooter. And I think, to be honest, from now on, I'm probably going to move over to shooting Fibre wad for the majority of shooting that I do. Yes, in a competition situation, we all want to perform a little bit better. We all want that extra bit of confidence in our cartridge. So yes, I probably will move back over to a plastic wad. But genuinely, from what I've seen today, I honestly don't think there is much in it. And if you are not a top A class, AA or AAA shooter, then practicing with Fibre wads, looking after the environment a little bit, yes, okay, they might be £2 or £3 a slab more expensive, but I genuinely think you really ought to consider it. So thank you for watching this week, guys. I'll be back to you next week with another video.